And I am going to initiate the live stream. We're live streaming to Facebook.
All right.
One moment.
Okay, we're live, and welcome to Community Board 11 and the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. My name is Ross Brady. I'm here with my co-chair, Lori Windsor, and our manager, Marnie, Elias Pavia, and a lot of wonderful people, Bill Colton, Jeff Harris, LaRufa. These are the people that I could see, but our committee's here. Mr. Palatnik's here, and I think we're going to begin today with a presentation regarding and correct the address for me, 166 Kings Highway. And I'll leave it to Mr. Palatnik. Thank you.
That is correct. And thank you very much, Ross, and your entire board. All of you are volunteering your time. And I want to thank you very much for being so generous with it, with us this evening, and with me in general. You seem to give me the benefit of your time more often than not. So thank you very much. I'm here today with Joseph and Abe Batesh, who are a father and son team. And Abe, if you those of you were on a moment ago, Abe, you just want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Abe is a local guy, and that's why I asked him to be here. And Abe bought the property. He's a developer, and he builds buildings and rehabilitates buildings around the city. And he's a self-made guy. He's a Brooklyn kid made good. He's John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. He's made good, but he stayed in Brooklyn. And he lives in the neighborhood. He lives on McDonald Avenue. He's raising his grandchildren are here. His kids are here. His kids work with him. He's really one of the people you want to see stay here. And he bought this property that we're here to talk to you tonight. We're here tonight to introduce a property to you that he would like very much to build an apartment building on. But the zoning is such that it only allows a smaller building of about 5 stories and a very little amount of floor area. So Abe would very much like the chance to build more, and with that provide affordable housing. And what he wants to build is on Kings Highway. I'm going to show it to you. It's what I just heard before. Is it the El Rio Diner, right? There's an El Dior Diner that I heard a moment ago. I've never eaten there, but I'm sure the food was great, because what New York City diner did not have good food. But that's been knocked down years ago by a previous owner as a charter school. It wasn't Abe. If you're upset about the loss of the diner, blame the previous owner. That was not Abe that demolished it. It was a charter school, and they thought they were going to build a school there, and they never got too far. They built some foundations and they let it sit. So Abe came along, and he sees an opportunity here because the property is iconic. It's sort of like the Flatiron Building. It's across from a library. It's a big piece of property, and it's got very few houses next to it. 3 homes, and 2 of them have agreed to what we're doing already. And we think what we're asking is a zoning change. We're asking for something reasonable that will provide affordable housing and create a nice building. And you'll see the way we designed it. We designed it to respect what's going on around us. I'm going to point that out in a moment. But we were here tonight at the very beginning of it. This is just an idea. This is like when the girl brings the boy home, or the boy brings the girl home, and the boy brings the boy home, and the girl brings the girl home, whatever everybody does these days. This is the beginning. This is the first time we're introducing it to you. We're looking for your comments. We want to hear what you have to say. This is will be hopefully a ULURP application in front of you one day, like the one that I had in front of you last week, and I think you're going to be talking about later tonight. It's a different application. This is very early on. That one's at the end. So we're 2 years away from the end. Don't tell that to Abe Batesh. He'll freak out. I told him it was going to be done next week, but it's 2 years away from the Abe's calling me right now. What do you mean 2 years? So what I'm suggesting to you is that this is not done by a long shot. As much as Abe would like to hope it is, it's not. And your comments tonight will dictate what we do going forward, just like it did on other applications I've done with you. We don't have color renderings for you tonight because we haven't created them yet. That's how early we are. So we're just going to show you black and white stuff. Use your imagination. But if you have ideas of things you want to see, the next time we come, we're going to include those. I'm going to do what I did with you the last few times I've been in front of you, which is just every time we come back, we'll try and include more of your comments and build, hopefully, create a building that you'd like to see. So if there are no questions, I'd be happy to jump right into our presentation. And if there are questions, but I don't hear any or see any. So Austin is our guy who's controlling the screen. So Austin, can you pull up the presentation? Or Alonzo is here, I see. So it's not even.
Switching it up on your air.
There you go. It is Austin. So it's Austin's picture and Alonzo's name. Go figure. Just a trick for me. All right.
Alonzo's doing it.
All right. So there we go. So for those of you who can see the screen, which I assume is most of you, we're just off of Stillwell Avenue. That's the library is just behind us there, where you see the round roof. The site is right there. You can see it's all dirt. The dirt is what's left over from the charter school that started to build. Remember, I told you there was a charter school that started to build. So you could see that the property is in this iconic location where it sort of comes to a T right there between Quinton, or a head at Quinton and Kings, sort of like I said before, mimicking the Flatiron building. We're going to ask you to allow us to rezone this property, which is the site, and the property that's at the tip, the triangle one, that gets to get a rezoning too, because the city likes to see both properties rezoned together.
Ken, there's so much more to do. What are you talking about?
Abe, you have to mute yourself. We could hear you. Thank you. So Abe got distracted there for a moment. So on to the next screen, please. So the next slide, please. Austin, can you hear me?
Yeah, it looks like he's having some technical difficulties, but Alonzo, if you unshare, then I can just share it and take it. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, you can go to the next screen, please. We can click ahead. Why don't you go right to the screen that shows the site with all the words next to it? And Alonzo, if he's having difficulties, yeah, you can grab it if he's not doing okay. One more. There should be a screen that says, got a picture with all the words next to it. Next slide, please. There you go. Okay. So this slide is a good slide for you to see because it starts to show you what's going on around us a little bit. Specifically, it starts to show you, and I'm going to show you some more pictures in a few minutes. No, you were good where you are. Who is controlling the screen? Hi. Alonzo is. Now we lost the screen. Technical difficulties.
Better you than me.
Right. I know. You know how this goes. Austin's got control. So when Austin's in control, things usually start to go well. There you go. Okay. So this slide is important because we're going to show you in a few minutes is that the properties all around us are zoned differently than us. And they allow for taller buildings. And that's what's going on behind us. And this is an older picture. I should have gotten you more. If you look at the top of your screen, it says under construction, proposed 7-story residential and community facility building. That's because all those properties on the other side of the street are in a bigger zoning district. And I'll show you that right now, Austin. If you go to the next slide, one more slide forward, even one more. Okay. So this slide shows you two things, but the most important thing is down in the middle of the screen is the R7X district that we are proposing. And that's what's shown in the middle of the screen. And if you look all around us, we are surrounded by what's called R7A. And what we're asking you to do here is to simply extend that R7A over the property. But instead of applying an R7A, we're asking you to apply an R7X. And the reason for the R7X is the R7X gives us a little more floor area and it lets us provide more affordable housing. So Austin, if you go to the next screen, please. This shows you the zoning map as it stands right now. And if you go now to the tax map, Austin, please, it gives the tax map. There you go. This shows you the area that we would be rezoning. So before I showed you the zoning map, it showed you the R7A all around us. Our site right now is zoned to R6B, and we'd be asking to rezone our site and the blue area where the word project area is to what's called R7X. And Austin, if you could skip forward for a couple couple of screens now, go to some pictures of the property. So here's some pictures of the property. So that for those of you who are familiar with it, you'll recognize it. For those who aren't, where you see the $5 shoe shine, that's the corner property that's in the rezoning, but we are not rezoning. Austin, if you can go now to get some pictures of our property, which I think is view 6 starts to show it. You get to this screen, if you look at the lower left corner, up, you move the head, you move very fast here, Matt. If you could pause one, please. There you go. View 6. The lower left corner shows you a very good picture of the property itself that we're talking about right now. And that's what we're asking for your approval on. I'll click forward now. Austin, why don't we go right to the plans? We can show them the building that we're proposing, because the rest of them are just a lot of pictures. You gave so many pictures there. You don't need so many pictures. Actually, why don't you go to the zoning map change if you can, Austin? There you go. So this map, this picture shows you both what's existing right now as far as an existing zoning district, and that's what's showing on the left side of the screen. And although you can't see it so clearly because there's so many different zoning districts there, the existing zoning district is R6B. But that's the left side. But, you know, even though what I just said helps to explain to you why we're doing what we're doing here and why it makes, or I should say why it makes sense. If you look at this screen and the one on the left, there's a gazillion zoning districts on that screen. I don't think I've ever seen a zoning map in New York City that has more zoning districts within 50 feet of each other than this intersection. You've got R41, R5B, R7A, R5, R6B, and commercial overlay over it. So you've got 6 different zoning districts there already. So we're making the argument to you now that we're asking you for the zoning change, because what we're asking is shown on the right side of the screen would create an R7X where you see the little red blurb there in the middle, but it would really be a continuation of that R7A that you see all around us, and it would let the Patesh's building I'm about to show you. And if you can go now, Austin, why don't you go right to the very end of the plan so they can see the building that we are proposing. Go to the very last page of the plans. So this is a picture, or a black and white picture, I should say, of the building if you're standing on Kings Highway. Now, when you're looking at the building, what you'll see at the very beginning of it, in the ground floor, at the very bottom, is storefront. So what we're asking your approval for is to build a 10-story building that's going to have ground floor commercial, and the upper floors are going to be residential. The commercial is going to be about 13,000 square feet. And it's going to be 1 story on Kings Highway primarily. So if you look in this picture on the left side, although the building rises up, you'll see there are trees. And if you look very closely right above the first floor, you'll see trees. That's because the building on Kings Highway is set back from the street by 20 or 30 feet. So to the person walking down the street, they don't see a big building rising. It looks like someone's in the back. They just see, this 1-story portion. And that continues along, you get one portion where the building jumps up there in the middle. So they get a portion where it jumps up. But if you go to the right, you'll see it's only 2 stories tall. Now that's important because we showed you pictures before of some homes that are around us on the other side. This 2-story portion of the building is what's behind those homes. So we've designed, Austin, if you can go now back to an aerial at the very beginning, go right back to the first page, page 1. Great. So what I was just showing you, the 1-story portion, folks, was trying to depict to you, you can understand the sensitivity that the Patesh's applied when they designed this. Behind those 3 homes on the left, all the dirt you see behind those homes, between them and Kings Highway, that's going to be the 2-story portion of the building, so that those homes are not going to be encumbered upon by having the taller part of the building next to them, rather just a 2-story. And then if you look along this picture where you see the word Kings Highway, everything between the E of the word site and Kings Highway is only going to be 1 story tall. So the building has been designed in a way that it really focuses as much of the bulk as it can up against the intersection there a little bit. And I'll show you that in a second. Austin, if you can go back to the plans and go right to the plot plan now. Austin's going to show you the plot plan. The Patesh's have taken a lot. This is sort of hard to read, but the most important part for you to read on this plot plan, if you want to orient yourself a little bit on things here, is the building is a triangle. The top of the page is Kings Highway, and the bottom of the page is Quinton, so that you can see where you are a little bit. And on the right side is West 12th Street. And what the pedestrians have done, if you look at the words that say story, and you can start maybe right at the bottom of the page, you could see 1 story. And that's a 1-story portion that they're building right up along Quinton. It's not until they step back from that point about 7 feet, and then it goes to the 9-story portion of the building. All along the building, it steps down from 9 stories to 10 stories. And then you move around to the other side and it steps down to 1 story and so forth and so on. So they've varied the heights as you move around the building. Now, Austin, if you can go now to the cellar level, I'll take you through the floor plans. They will have 52 parking spaces is the proposal. They're proposing right now to include about 99 apartments. Of those 99 apartments, about 30 of them will be affordable. So they don't, because we're in a transit zone, they're not required to have any parking. So we're having almost 1-to-1 parking on the market rate units. The parking will be at the cellar level. It'll be a semi-automated system, which means that it'll be a valet, and the valet will drive the car downstairs. And then when it gets downstairs, it's a rack system that the valet puts the cars on and they move around. That's what you're seeing here. If you go now to the first floor plan, please, Austin. The first floor plan, you can clearly see here, shows you the entire thing is commercial. So that's all it's showing you here, is the whole thing is commercial, except the residential entrance is located on Quinton, and that's where the parking garage entrance is located also on Quinton. That's what you see in the middle of the page there, where you see what looks like almost like an ice rack with all those little openings in there. Of course, that's not an ice rack, that's bicycle storage, but that's right next to the vestibule where people would walk in the lobby area. And then right next to that would be where the cars enter and go down. All the garbage would be stored in the cellar. There'll be cellar level storage. Super will be able to access that. And the garbage will be able to be taken out on the days that it's available for pickup. They could have the garbage retrieved either on Kings Highway or on Quinton. If we go to the next slide, please, Austin. And then we're almost done. I'll be done in 2 more minutes and I'll wrap up. The next slide is pretty much just what you would think. It's a series of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units that move up and down the building. Most of the units in the building are primarily 2 bedrooms. There's a series of 3 bedrooms as well. And there's a few studios, but it's mostly 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. And then with a decent amount of 3 bedrooms and then some studios, it's a very small amount of studios. That is our proposal. As I said, Austin, you can take the screen down now. We're very early in things. We have not gone out and formally introduced this around the city and been running around with it. You're the first place we're going. We have met with city planning about it. They support it in the sense that they feel it makes sense. They don't support it in the sense that they're saying that you should support it. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but they feel it makes sense. So they were the ones that said that we can continue on with it. So we've met with them and now we're coming to you for your thoughts. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and go through things or come back and whatever you'd like. Thank you.
Well, I know the Assembly member's office is right across the street. So I have 2 questions and I defer to the Assembly member who might have a question. As I looked around, I don't see any other 10-story buildings around the area, and it seems to be a small footprint for that kind of building. And the other question I have is 2 of the 3 adjoining, and they still are adjoining or abutting this building. It's residential units. Can I guess which one is holding out? Is it the one next to where the cars are entering? Is that kind of the holdout problem?
That's necessarily the holdout. At least do we know which one is the holdout? Well, I don't know. A holdout's not the right word. We haven't been in touch with that person yet.
Oh, okay.
In touch with 2 of the 3 people. The 3rd person they haven't been in touch with. But Joseph, Abe, or Elise, do you know which of the 3 people you have not yet been in touch with?
I believe it was the middle of the 3, if I'm not mistaken.
That's interesting.
The other 2 we spoke to. I am sorry. The other 2 we spoke to, and they were very supportive of it. They were excited that something was going to be built there, hopefully. And they're very supportive.
And this is Joseph Batesh speaking. This is Abe Batesh's partner, and also happens to be his son.
Okay. But again, there are no other 10-story buildings.
No, but there
Mhm.
are, like I pointed out, Austin, can you go to the picture that shows the words with the aerial that's depicted there? As I was trying to call out, there's an R7A district that surrounds us. So Ross, what I was trying to call out by showing you the R7A district when I was on this
Mhm.
page talking about, well, you move around very fast, young man. You were on the right page 2 seconds ago. Hang on, let him get there. Let me get oriented. You pause right here. This is great. You stop right here. This picture, as I was calling out, everything that's on the upper side of your page where there's language on it, such as starting with under construction, proposed 7-story, going right down to the 1-story Rite Aid, all of that rests within an R7A district that allows a building height of 95 feet tall. That's what is under construction on the proposed 7-story. I can get you the height of that. I don't know the exact height, but the proposed 7-story residential community facility building you see is one of the buildings that is being developed now. As time goes on, you will see all of those buildings be developed, obviously, because they're in that higher density district.
Right.
So we're asking you to, although we're a bit of a trendsetter in the sense that we're ahead of most of them, Austin, if you go to a map, a zoning map that shows the R7A over there, just so you can see it one more time so he understands. I don't want him to think there you go. So all that area that's on the top side, that's above us, that's got the cross hatching, all rests within that R7A district. So it's not that we're much different than everybody else. Our zoning will be very similar to them as far as building height goes. And I'd reckon to say that in the next few years, you'll see as people start to assemble more and more sites, that whole area will hopefully develop and you'll get more housing. Or hopefully not. I don't know what your goal is. Maybe that's not what you want to see. You mentioned you live there. Maybe you like it the way it is. So I don't want to, whatever you want to see.
And not that close to me. The assembly member's right across the street, and there's also a library next door. So I wonder if the assemblyman has any questions.
Well, first of all, I do want to say that I very much appreciate the fact that the developer is coming early to the planning board and giving, I think a very clear presentation of what's happening here, which I very much appreciate. There is not, I obviously am very interested in, the details as it's worked out and, what happens. But I think that there's a lot of good possibilities here. I've always said, that when community, development occurs, it's going to occur. Kings Highway was zoned for high-rise buildings. I wasn't totally for that when the zoning was being done, but it was a logical place to have high-rise buildings. And we worked out that compromise that, the side streets would be low-rise and the Kings Highway itself would be high-rise. So I look forward to that. So I'm interested, and I would certainly be very interested in, any information that the developer has. I'd be interested. I think, Eric, you've already contacted my office to meet and discuss, and I'm very willing to do that. Right now, I am in Albany. I was a little concerned whether or not, how I was going to manage 2 zone meetings at the same time, because the Albany session is also on zone, but I did bring my personal computer, so I was going to give it a try, but we got very lucky because the moment you started coming on, the assembly adjourned session. And so I didn't have to try 2 zone meetings. The only other thing I would like to say on a sad note is there is a breaking story that apparently in Texas, a teacher and 14 children were killed. Another horrible shooting incident. And so I think, we should say a prayer for those victims and their families. And somehow we have to get this hate under control. It just is a terrible scourge. And it's not only in New York, it's all over. But that kind of put a little bit of a dimmer on, as I was getting ready to participate in this, that news was broken on the assembly floor. But I'm interested in this project. I'm interested in, being kept informed. And I'm interested in being helpful in terms of making sure the community stays informed. And I see possibilities here. So again, thank you for, making this presentation. It was very helpful to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman.
I have a quick question. Are all the 99 units rentals, or is there condos involved?
They're proposed to be rentals, if only because well, we have to determine how it's going to go. But there's a 421 play to help determine. Right now, the affordable component, which the Assemblyman can tell you, is requires that a certain percentage of the units be created as affordable units. So by doing that, that creates a complication to create condos. The Assembly, I know the state legislature is working on ways to maybe create condominiums. It's a problem we all know about. So for now, it's proposed to be rentals, but it's not necessarily the desire of the owner to have it as rentals, and nor I think is the desire of the community to have rentals. I think people like to see rentals, but I think they really like to see people buy homes and plant roots. But that's a conflict in the program of the affordability that we're working through. So but it's years away before this will be built. So hopefully that'll be worked out.
Okay, thank you. Also, where did the Assembly member go? Because I did want to bring up something that's the semi-elephant in the room, but there he is. We heard this site was supposed to be a homeless shelter. So what's the story?
You're talking about the 137 Kings Highway site?
No, wasn't it this site?
Not
too?
this
Sorry.
site, not this site.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm sorry. Then I should rephrase that.
Yeah, but I am anxious to know about the homeless shelter. If anybody wants,
Assemblyman Colton, do you want to fill in
Yeah.
on that?
The homeless shelter site is 137 Kings Highway. I have met with the commissioner, and frankly, the community is fighting it fiercely. And I'm very optimistic we're going to actually turn that around. It's interesting that the owner of 137 Kings Highway has also filed plans for I think it's a 7-story building. I don't think he's seeking a zoning change, which the plans does not look like a homeless shelter. It's got 35 units, and it's got, I think, 22 parking spaces. It appears, and it's got retail also on the first floor. So we don't know what that just happened in the last month. And I will be touring the area with the commissioner, probably as soon as I get out of Albany, which hopefully will be next week. And then, we'll get more information on that. The other building, 125, is also a rental high-rise building. And the rents are pretty high for that. I don't know if they have any affordable units in that or not. But the rents are pretty high that they're offering. That building is completed and it is starting to rent now. But this building, there's always rumors. I did hear a rumor at one point it was going to be a homeless shelter, but there's no basis in that as far as I can see, and certainly not in the plans that were filed.
yeah. Well, I just want to tell you that whatever my family and I could do, I grew up in this neighborhood. I went to Magen David Elementary from kindergarten, which is now a public school, that beautiful new public school.
Right.
That library was my library. I wasn't a healthy child. I had rheumatic fever, and I used to go to the doctor twice a week to get shots. And we used to go to the doctor, and then we used to go to the library, my mother and I. I'm now 53 years old. Like, that is my neighborhood. I live within a 10-minute walking distance. I don't think it's a good place for a shelter. And I actually know it's not a good place for a shelter. And I would like to help the community in any way I can, because there's a Magen David High School 2 blocks away. There's an elementary school around the corner. There's a library. I mean, I hope I'm not speaking out of my turn by saying I think it's a terrible place for a shelter. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I own across the street. I think it's a terrible place for a shelter because there's a lot of schools around and 1 and 2 family homes.
I also think it's a terrible place for a shelter. And, I know I've been to Magen David High School. I've actually did a volunteer law career course there. on a volunteer basis for a couple of years. And that high school is an important part of our community. And we don't want to do anything that is going to cause it any problems. And I know there's a lot of concern about that, as well as the other schools that are right around there. Somehow they picked a site that has 6 schools within 1 block. There's
Disaster.
2 in Cefalo. There's 3 schools in 682. There's Mag and David. I mean, it's incredible. But I very welcome, your offer of working together, discussing with you ideas on this. And I think your building would be much more, beneficial to the community, certainly, than a homeless shelter. I think we all agree that would be a disaster. And so I look forward to, continuing discussions on this and on, the community's fight against the homeless shelter. And I will be on the lookout for any rumors that, you're going to build a homeless shelter or somebody else, because the rumors go crazy. And if you let them get out of hand and don't, put a stop to it right away, it's one of the reasons I think it was very, very good that you made this presentation now before the rumors start. So I look.
Assemblyman, you have my word. You have my word that I've never mentioned the word shelter regarding my property, and I never will. And everybody on this phone call has my word. That will never, never happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Curto has her hand up.
Sure. I'm first of all, I'd like to say hello and thank you for presenting. I know it's a long-term project, so it's good to get it in right at the ground level. Abe, I love hearing your story. I live a few blocks away. I also am concerned because if we have, as we're getting, I know there's a positive and a negative side to having big buildings all around us. The positive side is it shows in terms of growth and progress, but we also have to remember there is a Cefalo Park that's overcrowded right now. Every time I pass, there's so many people using it and we're crowded in. We don't have enough environmental space. We need more green space. Also, I worry about the flooding because we have flooding in this area in the basements. And so we want to make sure we have good infrastructure. I don't know if we have the capability with garbage over on Bay Parkway and Kings Highway. There's a lot of overflow. We need to make sure we have good sewer pipes and all of those other things that come along with having more people. And again, I welcome something, but I also hope that it's going to be done prudently. And so, Abe, your story made me feel like you'd really be concerned about how it's built. And also, I want to know the difference between 7X and 7A. Why not 7-story? Why 10? I don't know, something like that. I guess
that all makes good sense. And the real reason for the X versus the A is twofold. The X gives the developer the opportunity to have more flexibility in their design. So I showed you before that the building is going to be stepped down in certain areas and respect the neighbors around us. That's the X at work. It's not a height issue so much. But what it also does, in addition, because the height can be based very similar to what's next door, it's in the R7A, but it gives them more floor area also. That's important because the city these days, in case you noticed, is requiring a higher percentage of units to be donated by the developer into these affordable housing cachet. I don't know if you know this, but all of the affordable housing that's created through these rezonings is privately paid for. None of it, it's all paid for by the developer. So all these applications that I'm asking you for, the city is encouraging because they get affordable units. Abe is donating to the city, literally. That's his deal making, in exchange for this. He has to give. That's the give. So the city wants more units out of it. So the X allows more units to be created, which goes contrary to what you just said, because obviously you're talking about overcrowding, limited capacity, and things like that, which runs contrary to the idea of building more units. But that's why it's being proposed. And I know it's not satisfying to hear that, but if you're trying to figure out more open space, but I'll say this. The Pateshas are very community-focused people, as you just heard. And I'm sure if you continue a conversation with them about open spaces and parks and things like that, I'm sure they'd like to work with you, because anything that could be done to create open spaces and amenity for this building is good for them, And it's good for them to be able to try to create spaces for young families to utilize, because they're creating a market, a product here that they're selling or renting. So they've obviously they're aligned with you in the goal.
Would you consider green roofs? I know there's like grants coming up where,
Yeah.
where you have more green on your roofs around the property, you know, just having a little bit more air quality.
And a lot of that included, I mean, we didn't go through the presentation, but there's a lot of green incorporated in development. I didn't get into all that stuff, but you know, that's stuff by code is required. So there's all sorts of things, and we'll come back and more detail on that next time we come back. We'll engage.
Okay, and the last question is in terms of population that is going into these homes, we're going to need more space. I'm a teacher, so already we have overcrowded classrooms, and we're trying to lower class size, and this is going, we don't really have more classrooms anymore, but perhaps your space will be utilized for some sort of.
That's something that, you know, we really need to be talking about, and it's good conversation, and also to the assemblyman and also the council member we could start to talk to too, is the school construction authority needs to be focusing on school seats, creating more school seats. You know, we can't stop the children from being born, but we can create more school seats. The other thing too is, of course, is Abe mentioned, you know, obviously there's a strong Jewish population and a lot of going into the private school system, but nonetheless, still a strain on either school system, whichever school system they're going into. So I are with you and would like to try to address that.
Eric, just very quickly, well, some of these spaces, we're not going to have a lot of spaces left, and we will have more children being born. So I think that maybe with the assemblyman or some of the people in Albany, can you think about taking some of that space and utilizing for public works, for schools, for parks? We haven't discussed that. It seems like private industry is taking over most of the space, and there won't be enough for the future. And people, I find it's overcrowded already, honestly. But I do like the idea of having nice buildings. I just want you to do it in a way that the Albany people with the private industry kind of meet in the middle.
Smart growth. Smart.
Thank you. Well, Jeff has his hand up. Jeff Harris.
Yeah, is this going to be a climate friendly building? Meaning that no strictly electric?
It's gonna be electric. It's gonna be required to be electric by the new state law, new city laws. So yeah.
Okay. And what's going to be built in that little triangle that's across the street where that shoe place is?
You know, he doesn't want to build anything. It's an older guy that owns the thing. It's his place. It's his business. He doesn't want to change. Mr. Patesh has spoken to him. He doesn't want to see change. So, you know, for the foreseeable future, I think as long as that gentleman is around, I don't think you're going to see a change.
Wasn't that included in the rezoning?
It's included in there, and he doesn't want to build on it. So I don't think you have to worry about a building being built there for a while. He has no interest.
Well, then why rezone that area? Why rezone that plot?
Well, we are including it because as a part of the rezoning, we have to include a consistent land use plan. So it wouldn't be logical to cut him out from an aesthetic mapping perspective, from a land use plan. Now, having said that, you can make a recommendation to the councilman when we get into the ULURP that he can cut it if he wants to cut it out. That would be up to the councilman to do. But for now, the gentleman is in, and our city planning application includes him because that's our rationale for the rezoning, that it's a continuation of it. But we're not the only people involved. If it gets to when it gets to the land use component, it can be tinkered with by the councilman, and that's something you can speak to him about. But right now, it's proposed to be in for those reasons, and he doesn't have any intention of building on it.
Right.
I think Mr. Planek, we'd be looking forward to that, in that environmental study, and also the traffic study, and picturing what you had stated about how traffic would be coming with a valet, et cetera. And then you mentioned not really anticipating, but the overflow of students to whether it's public or private school. For private school, it doesn't seem like that is a place where there should be any pickup of kids, whether private buses or anything. I'm trying to picture there might be a bus stop across the street for regular buses, but having additional buses picking up in that location is something you probably want to stray away from, or at least look into and keep it in your study. I'm sure you'll you have a thorough presentation when you, as this moves forward.
Okay. Thank you.
So I don't see any other hands. Marnie, is anything you'd like to address?
No, not at this moment.
And I would just thank Mr. Palatnik and our Mr. Batesh and everyone who presented today, and thank the committee. We do have other business today. So we can take a pause for 30 seconds and say goodbye to Mr. Ormis. You're welcome to stay.
I'm going to stick around, but I'll just mute myself. Thank you very much.
That's impossible. Okay. Okay. Marnie, should we, I guess, move ahead to the second order of business? Lori, are we all set? I know we have I don't know that we did, Marnie, did you want to? You sent me the graphic, you sent us the graphic today. I know it's called the cheat sheet, but did we want to show it again? If anyone has questions, we've gone over about three or four meetings, and there's been a public hearing on, if I got the address right, 2080. Sometimes I get the numbers wrong. This is Avenue S and McDonald Avenue. The presentation, we've had 3 or 4 changes, again, with Mr. Palatnik, with a 3-story kind of townhouse, then entering into the commercial community space, which I guess is contemplated to be perhaps a day school or preschool, and several presentations on it. I just wondered if the committee has any other thoughts that they want to share before we decide whether to make a recommendation to the board. Do I hear anyone? I can go first. I mean, I've just said that, that they've come 3 or 4 times before us. They've made significant changes, always looking out for the folks on Lake Street. The housing across the way is on the corner is not the same as the residential housing further down, and it is open. It is much like not much like the building that he just showed us. There, it's graduated. And there's open space, and there's 25% affordable housing. The noise is it's built so that so that it's an environmentally friendly in terms of noise anyway. And I believe there are a couple of other things I'm leaving out. The number of parking spaces, where I think 1 for 1. So I personally think that it would be proper for the area. I think the area supports it in terms of transportation and this parking. And we had some concerns about the entrance for the cars coming in on Lake Street, how that would affect traffic, and that that if kids are going to be entering, that the entrance to the preschool is as far away from the entrance for the cars as possible. So please chime in, Marnie, Lori, anyone, for everything and anything that I've missed on that, and let's know what you think about that development.
I think you covered it well. I will defer to the members. I think they addressed many of the issues. I know there was concern, like you said, regarding the entranceway and some traffic. I just want to add before we go on, for this public hearing, we were not required to, but we did mail out notices to 200 residents in the 400-foot study area, which was provided by the applicant. And we also requested written comments that they could be submitted to the board, either mailed, dropped off, emailed. We didn't receive any comments, and the only concerns that we heard at the public hearing on May 12th related to the parking. Those were the primary concerns, and they were addressed by the applicant at that time. As you're aware, this development falls within the transit zone and is not required to provide any parking And they did so because they were aware of the needs and the issues, not only of the proposed tenants, but the existing issues within the neighborhood now as it relates to parking. So that was addressed. And the only other issue related to the school traffic, which you have at every school within the city of New York. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, whether it's private, public schools, just something happens between drop off and dismissal that I can't even begin to explain. So those issues were addressed. And that's what I have.
Wonderful. Oh, in the order the hands went up, it was Mr. Harris, then Ms. Curto. So Jeff first.
The entrance to the parking, is that still on Lake Street on the same side as the school?
It is,
Okay, well,
but it's
that's,
not next, it's not next to the entrance.
no, but it's still
parking
on,
is-
it's still on the same side, which is, again, a concern. The other thing I haven't heard was the fact that how does the building handle the vibrations from the train, overhead train? That was never, I was never addressed. Nothing was ever mentioned regarding that. It was mentioned regarding that the new technology of the glass windows for the glass to omit the sound, which is, that's a given. But nothing was ever mentioned of the rumbling of the L. And believe me, it is a lot of vibrations.
I think
Okay.
there's always an expectation when you live next to the train, whether it's on 86th Street, New Utrecht Avenue, or McDonald Avenue, that you're going to feel some of the impacts of the elevated structure.
Agreed, but it's not a question of feeling it. It's a question of damaging the structure.
Uh,
There's a lot of buildings. There's a lot of buildings along Fourth Avenue where the R travels. All right. They have been damaged due to the vibrations of the trains. A lot of them had to be repaired internally.
That was the underground.
That's the underground. Now, the
Right.
above ground is worse.
I don't know, is Mr.
Because-
Platt still
well,
on the
no-
phone? We can ask him. Eric?
He's there, but there's no picture, so I don't know. Oh,
There he
no,
comes.
Right here. Is the question about the I'm sorry, it took me a second to hit the unmute. Is the question about the vibration?
yes.
So the building has been engineered to mitigate all vibrations. I don't know how exactly they do it, but it is well known that it's next to a subway. And in all the buildings that are built these days next to subways and other vibration sources, they have engineering techniques to mitigate that. I can try to get back to you after the hearing and try to get some more engineering about that, of how they do that. I'm not exactly sure. But there still will be some vibrations. You're 1000% right. But it's not like it was in the old, like there used to be a movie called The Blues Brothers, you know, where they were next to an elevated train. It's not like that by any stretch of the imagination. It's much more improved than it was decades ago, but there still will be a vibration.
No, it's not a question of the vibrations. It's a question of damaging the structure.
Oh, no,
Because of
that,
vibrations.
no, that's designed, the building is designed with a tolerance level for the vibration. Just like every other building in New York City, we've all been in these buildings that have been around for 100 years, where you know exactly when the train is going past, you know, and the buildings survive just fine. So the building can be. I'm not an engineer, but there will be no structural instability as a result of that.
Victoria?
Marnie, you kind of said exactly what I was thinking about parking. Parking is an issue everywhere, and we're gonna have either, you know, whether it's gonna be here, you know, all the buildings that are being built right now, we're gonna, we have hardly any parking as it is. And I just worry, why don't we do something? Why can't we have more parking available? If these buildings are putting in 99 units, there should be 99 spots. How could we design something in a technologically new world where the spots would be there for those people using the buildings? That's one. And then, of course, the school, the Jewish school on McDonald, when I tried to get to a second job, I couldn't get past them. They're all double parked, triple parked. So the more buildings we build, the more people are going to live there, the more traffic we're creating. what happened? We are doing this. We haven't alleviated the problem. We're making it worse. So that's my concern. As much as I love buildings, I think we've got to really think about the construction and how we can add parking spaces, how we can make better traffic, routes.
Well, let me just say to you that the Department of City Planning doesn't believe that parking should be a requirement of development, right? Houses are, so they reduced the parking requirements. And in this development, I mean, the developer understood the needs of the community. And even though he wasn't required, I don't believe he was required to supply one parking spot. He did require it, I think, for close to 100% of the market rate unit. So you do have the parking. And I would just hope that city planning and city council supports
But
those
then
parking spots.
Marnie, I understand, and I understand the committee and what you're saying, but the point is that it's not required, and you're right. So something's wrong here in the city plan. I mean, why aren't we thinking about the future? We're not thinking about kids, public spaces.
Because in the city of New York, they are not pro-automobile, and that isn't a part of the bigger picture, right? You have a train right next door to this development. And so yet the developer is providing a parking lot for every unit where he doesn't have to. So he recognized that, even though it's not required. So you have it as part of this development, if that answers the question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you, Marnie.
Okay.
I'm still concerned though.
I don't see any other hands. I mean, given the development in question, I guess we should call the question.
May I just add one thing?
Absolutely.
And it won't be part of the question. I think in other land use applications, we put in a whereas after the recommendation to call on city planning to do a broader study of the needs of this community. Because what we have is, we have these spot rezonings that don't trigger real environmental impact statements, right? So we want to know, how many more police officers do we need? How many more school seats? How many more garbage trucks do we need on the route? So after you do the recommendation, if you would consider adding that whereas, we call upon the Department of City Planning to initiate a study to determine additional needs and services.
Right. Well, I think Lori would agree with me if we want to make it together, but I would make two recommendations. One that we move in favor of the development, and two, of course, with the list that Marnie just enunciated very clearly and eloquently of all the concerns and the need for the study and the need for the attention by city planning to our community. So
Bonnie, I think we already did this not too
Yes, we
long
did.
ago, and we
And-
didn't
and
get a
I-
response.
do it again.
And that's why, I mean, it's listed in our capital and expense budget, and we do add them on these applications. If we had a large rezoning, like the Bensonhurst rezoning, then it would trigger those studies, right, for additional needs. But because we have these spot rezonings like 2300 Cropsey that came before us, but that was just a commercial overlay. But between Cropsey and Bay Parkway, I think we're going to have 500 additional new units that didn't trigger any study, right? So now we have McDonald Avenue, which is only 66 units, right? Which isn't a big development by any, means. But then we have another proposal for Kings Highway, which is another, I didn't read through the whole thing, 99 units, right? So now we're
Yeah.
growing how many more seats. So I think it's just a whereas. We additionally call upon the Department of City Planning to look to initiate a study to determine additional needs and services. Ross, you're muted.
Oh, I did the opposite. I muted myself. Sorry. Not easy to do. If that area is R7 surrounding the area, and if this is the beginning of development, we have to be very careful. Yeah, as you know, Victoria Mosquito had mentioned, and we do have to be careful. So it's, you know, more important than ever that you call for that with any kind of approval, or even a recommendation against. But I think that's very critical, because if the prophecy is fulfilled in that area, and we're going to have 6 or 7 to 10 story buildings, each one is going to have to be looked at very carefully, and each one is going to affect the area. So can we call the question? Should we do this by the raise of hands, or just there's about 20 of us on a voice vote?
How about anyone? So the
Opposed?
question is to approve it with that.
With the clauses and the call for the city. If
Okay,
you want to call it the whereas provisions,
yes, okay.
all of them.
Would you like to do it? Anyone opposed?
Yes, why don't we just do that? I mean, assume that in the affirmative, is there any opposed?
Would there be able to could we do something where we could lower? I mean, again, I'm really not sure why we're building so many things without having a discussion with our government officials who we need more. I'm going to keep repeating it. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but we need more space. We don't want more traffic and more people living in. It's going to cause a quality of life issue. So I still believe that we should have more discussion, but yes, the whereas sounds good, that we can do some making sure that we have noise level, pollution level, quality of the air. There's so many things that our neighborhood's quaint and quiet, and I don't want to see it spoiled.
Okay, so is that a vote in the affirmative?
Okay, so Brett, Ross, I think I
It's okay to
see the
oppose.
positive sides, but I just am I want to do it with caution, and I want more involvement with those people that are invested in the neighborhood. Even though Abe grew up here, we want to have a quality of life. We don't want to move out, and it seems like many people moving out because things have changed too quickly without thought. You know, we need to think it out for our children's children, not for us, because, you know, I feel like, are my children's children still going to live here in Brooklyn? I want to make sure it's a nice area and good neighborhood. Yes, the people that come in, the newer people, maybe gentrification like they did in the old South Brooklyn, but we want to make sure it's got the right infrastructure, that we won't have plumbing problems. There's so many other things, garbage problems, smelly garbage outside, so many other things that we want to talk to those people who are making these decisions.
Okay,
Well,
but we
Marty, we'll
already
make
know
sure.
that. We already asked for that
Okay,
before, and we're
Lori,
still
yes.
gonna ask for it. No, Victoria, we're still asking for that. It's not
Okay.
that this hasn't been on the radar. It has been on our radar for quite some time.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you can't force a horse to drink. So we keep trying, we keep trying. That's all we could do. I mean, you know,
But these buildings are going to go up, and we still won't have our answers. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I think so, but people do need a place to live. I mean, there is a demand for housing, you know, so in terms of 2080, because we're only talking about 2080 right now,
Okay.
where Eric has presented, I don't know, 100 times to us. I've lost
Yes.
count how many times he's come to us. On this one, I think the motion that Ross put out was to approve and put that, whereas where we're asking again, one more time for the city to come in and do a study and look at all of these things that we keep bringing up to them. Was that the motion?
That's the motion, that would all be included in our recommendation to the full board to recommend in the affirmative.
Okay, so is everyone in favor? Whoever's, let's put it this way, everyone who's in favor on the committee, please raise your hand.
Can we see it? Okay. I use the raise hand function, is that it?
Raise hand.
I don't know. Either one.
Eileen, are you in favor? Eileen? I think we lost Eileen. Okay,
She has her
So-
hand raised.
Okay,
Eileen does? Eileen's not there.
Yes. Eileen
Oh,
is
there she
on
is.
my,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so now who is opposed?
and then I guess you can abstain if you don't want to go. on
Okay, well, that was the
record.
next
Right.
thing. So there's no one's opposing. Is anybody abstaining at this point?
I'm abstaining. Andrew Windsor.
We
Okay.
only abstain for cause.
Okay.
For cause, I think Victoria's point has merit to it. I understand that we are advisory only. And I personally would like to abstain until I see some traction from the city on that. I do not want to hurt the developer's project after listening today. I appreciate what they've done. And I appreciate what Eric's done multiple times. And so I would like to abstain because I do not want to hurt their project right now on this vote. However, I would like to see some traction from the city. So I would abstain until we hear from the city.
I'll change
Okay.
my vote to abstain because Andrew, I totally, I just want what's best for everybody. And I know everybody on this committee feels that way, but we haven't really seen where has government come to us and said, here's a brand new school building. Here's a beautiful park. We have this overcrowded space and we need more of the space for public use and for public good. That's what I believe. And I'm not going to change my mind about it, but hopefully, and I do see the merit to Eric's plan and to Abe's neighborhood, building, and the housing thing, Lori, I agree, but a lot of people are moving out of the city too. So I just feel like if we do it, we have to balance it. The key word is balance. The buildings that we're bringing in, the traffic, and how is that going to help families? How are we going to be helped? It doesn't help us to have too many cars and too many people and not enough for our children and children's children to do, space, regular space to play, go to school.
Okay, so
Alright.
at this point, Ross, I think it carried.
Yeah, yes, it seems like our motion to recommend to the full board in support with all the whereas and clauses and with which encompass these concerns that we're hearing today.
Yeah.
Gets to move
It's an
forward. So
old-
thank you,
It's just,
everyone.
it's just frustrating because it is an old issue for us. For those of who have been on and doing this, this is like an old issue that we keep beating the same dead horse. But we keep trying. We're not going to give up and throw in the towel. We're going to keep trying, but it is very frustrating.
Listen,
Wonderful. Marty, is there any?
No,
anything-
I was just going to say, it's a privately owned property and the property owner as of right can build a whole bunch of different types of buildings. You wouldn't necessarily get a school or a park. It's privately owned. It's not municipal lot. That's all.
So what's next? When's our next meeting?
The June 9th, second Thursday, I believe the 9th, June 9th.
Okay, well, that's if that's all, wish everyone a good night. A good and meaningful Memorial Day weekend. Now, I have a question. I'll ask Marnie this. I know a group that's doing a POW flag raising. If I don't mention the name of the group, is that okay, or that would not be appropriate?
Yeah. Okay,
well, at Shore Parkway and 81st Street at 10 a.m. Memorial Day before the parade, there's annually been a POW MIA commemoration and a flag raising with the Parks Department. The Boy Scouts are there. It's just a meaningful event to remember, our lost heroes, people missing in action and are dead. Our veterans who, gave the most sacrifice for our country. So it's very meaningful. We're always glad when there's a good attendance. It's good for the community. It's a very meaningful thing. So just make people aware. And then, of course, the Memorial Day Parade is back. So people can enjoy and have a meaningful experience there. But before that, at Lookout Point, 81st Street and Shore Road, 10 a.m. sharp.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that PSA. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful night.
You too.